Hey everyone, this is Ashley Jacobson with Airborne Canine Dog Training. Tonight I'm here with Kelly Ortega, and this episode is going to be covering behavior modification in training, talking about, what can be expected from a behavior modification program, what is behavior modification, and kind of how behavior modification works, how we kind of, overcome those obstacles. So before we get into behavior modification, I want to thank everybody who has listened to either or both of our last two episodes. This is going to be episode 3. We've been getting tons of really good feedback. We know that we're having some issues with our audio, came through a little bit quiet on the past 2. So we're going to try a new method today. Hopefully this is going to come out a little bit better. But we're going to keep trying to get better. So keep giving us your feedback. Let us know what you want to hear. Let us know if there's anything we can do to make your experience better. But yeah. So before we get started, I just want to make a couple of announcements. Our group class schedule has been improving and getting updated. So as of now, on Mondays at 6:30 p.m. at Mendoza Park in Spring Lake, we are doing our basic obedience drop-in group class. So you all are welcome to join us for that. It is $20 per class. Come as much as you need. This will help kind of get your dogs ready for things like the Canine Good Citizen, or just kind of go over some of the basic obedience. Whether you have a little bit of knowledge in obedience training or you're just getting started, the basic obedience class is a really great way to kind of continue to improve. On Tuesdays at 6:30, we have our advanced obedience and competitive obedience group class. It's also going to be at Mendoza Park. This is for those of you who want to get into competitive obedience, like if you're going to trial in any type of competitive obedience sport. This is for people getting ready for any type of competitive obedience sport or activity. This could be getting ready for any IGP trialing, AKC obedience, rally obedience. If you're trialing in PSA or any of the ring sports with their obedience phases, we'll work on things like focus healing, in-motion, out-of-motion exercises, and advanced skills. On Thursday nights, so tonight when we're recording, because we record on Thursdays, we have our reactive dog relaxation, and this will be at our Sanford Training Center on Lark Lane in Sanford. This is a chance for you to come out if you have issues with reactivity, and reactivity can come in a number of forms, which we will be talking about tonight. But it's a great chance to just kind of chill out in a very informal learning situation, a chance for your dog just kind of learn to relax around other people and other dogs. So for everyone who came out to see us, when we were a vendor at this past weekend, we were at the 2023 Southeast Regionals hosted by the Sandhills PSA Club. Thanks for coming out to see us. We had a great time seeing all of you. And it was an amazing event. If you want to see some of the best, most impressive obedience and protection dogs in the world, it was a fantastic showing. Congratulations to all the competitors who, passed their trials, earned their legs, earned their titles, and placed. Everyone did fantastic. It was just amazing to see. Kelly, do we have any other updates I'm missing?
I don't think so.
Okay. Upcoming, we will be a vendor at the upcoming 4th of July dock diving event at Teamworks in Youngsville, North Carolina. It'll be a 3-day event, I think. It's 3-day or 4-day. But we should be there. We'll be a vendor. We'll have our table set up so you can come out and see us. If you want to try out dock diving, come hang out. If you would like to give dock diving a try before that event, feel free to reach out to us. We can help you get started. We can kind of get you introduced to it, but it's going to be a really fun event if you want to come out and join us. Again, that's in Youngsville at Teamworks Dog Training. Trying to think. What else is coming up this summer, Kelly?
Honestly, I don't know. I kind of show up.
All right. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on this summer, but we'll keep you posted as those draw nearer. Those are the only things I can think of off the top of my head. We do currently have openings for board and train, day school, boarding dogs. We have openings if you're interested in getting started in group classes, private lessons. If you're needing specialty training, we do all of that. Feel free to give us a call. All right. So today's topic is behavior modification. So Kelly, I know you got behavior modification on the brain because you have a behavior modification case in for training this week. Can you tell me, tell our audience, what is behavior modification?
So I think like the definition of that is going to probably change a little bit to anyone you ask, because I think behavior modification is something that's just so specific to each case that everyone's experience with it is going to differ slightly. And I'm definitely still kind of introducing myself into the behavior mod. I'm still learning as I go here. But it's basically just trying to figure out a way to take your problems, your dog problems, and make it something that you can live with. I don't really like to describe it as the fixing of a dog's reactivity issues. It's more of like, how can we coexist in a safe way?
Okay, yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And it's, that's going to be a lot of what we talk about today. I think a lot of people reach out to dog trainers thinking that we can cure these, intrinsic, genetic or behavioral problems that are kind of ingrained in our dogs, psychology in our dogs, genetics and their DNA. Like this is how they act. And a lot of times it's not something that you're ever going to be able to cure, right? Now, I hesitate to say that we're going to teach you how to live with your dog's behaviors, but you're absolutely you're kind of right in a way, right? When it comes to behavior modification, I think it's one of the things that's important for our clients to understand or for our audience to understand is that when our dogs have these issues, whether it's reactivity, aggression, fear, anxiety, separation anxiety, whatever, right? It's very much a product of something that is in the back of their mind, something that's it's something that's always going to be there, an impulse that they always are going to kind of have. But what we want to teach them is how to manage those impulses in a healthier way so that way they don't have to do something that is potentially harmful or dangerous, right? Yeah.
I think for sure. Sorry, I'm trying to mute myself in between here so I'm not making background noise.
Oh.
Yeah, I think definitely like creating a management style for the dogs, but it's a management style for the humans too, because I think well, example like with you and Bro, you were taking him to the dog park a lot, and obviously like Bro is not gonna want to be doing that either.
This is like a decade ago, everybody. This is a decade ago. This isn't like last week. This back before I was a dog trainer. This is back when I knew nothing about dogs and I was making all my mistakes. So make sure we're emphasizing that.
Yeah, this is not an intervention. That is for next week. I'm just kidding. But it's also teaching the owner that, hey, like your dog is not gonna enjoy the experiences that you're trying to get them to enjoy. It's just not gonna work. So It's a two-way street on teaching the I guess behaviors that we want from owner and dog.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because like I guess I also have some behavior mod situation right now. The two dogs I have in right now, Ruger and Iris, they're actually awesome. They're super fun to train. Ruger, he's got some definite fearfulness and definite anxiety. He's not a super confident dog. He's the older of the two dogs in the house. Iris is the younger. She's very confident, but she's also extremely dominant, very pushy. And she, after doing our consultation, we, realized that she instigated a fight that became pretty catastrophic. Like she didn't win, let's just say. She ended up needing some pretty serious medical attention. She needed stitches and things like that. But what the issue was that she had gotten so much into Ruger's face, and he's just, he's not super, he doesn't want to be her best friend. He tolerates her. But when we're talking about expecting our dogs to tolerate certain things, we only expect him to tolerate it to a certain point, right? And that's never going to change for Ruger, right? His tolerance of the other dog, we're not going to teach him to love her being in his face. That's just not something that you can reasonably expect. We're not going to expect him to put up with that, and that's just, it would be unfair to expect that. So what I think I want to tell you a little bit about is kind of the process I'm taking with these two specific dogs, because I think it's something that's fairly common that a lot of people come to us about. Hey, my two dogs aren't getting along. How do I fix this? How do I make my dogs stop being aggressive towards each other? And, I think it's important for people to understand, like, hey, like in the situation with Iris and Ruger got pushed beyond his tolerance by Iris, and he said, enough is enough. It turned into a dog fight, and he was the bigger, more powerful of the two dogs. And so Iris ended up suffering for it, right? Now, in that event, Iris didn't learn not to mess with Ruger, right? She, she still has that impulse that she wants to be up in his face because that is genetically her personality. She's a very dominant, very forward, very confident dog who is going to get up in his face and want to like run at him and, mess with him. And so we're not going to necessarily change either of them and their personalities, right? Because that's unrealistic to think that we're going to change your personality through training. But instead, what we're doing, and today was the first day that I had them both out off leash together, is that we've taught them the skills and the obedience we'll need to manage the behaviors that led to the problem, right? So for instance, I had them out off leash, and I knew that Iris was going to want to go over and get into Ruger's face. So before today, when we had them out together, the things we really hammered on was the obedience I was going to need to manage that situation, which would be for Iris, a really good recall command, and for Ruger, a really good like place command or a really good down command, which we worked on a lot. And so when I had them out today, Ruger was out free, kind of, sniffing around, having a great time, just exploring on his own. And Iris, I'm keeping an eye on her, and I see her lock on to Ruger, looking at him, staring at him, and, immediately beeline for him. And I gave her that recall, and her recall is really good. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been risking this, right? I wouldn't have been, taking her out at this point if that recall wasn't super solid. But I knew her recall was super solid. So in that moment, before she got to him, I recalled her. She turned around, came back to me like a bullet. I gave her a huge reward, and we just practiced that. And so every time she tried to go over to him, I recalled her to the point that when she started to run to him, she stopped halfway, 3/4 of the way, and just came back to me on her own because she knew I was going to call her. So at this stage in their program, we're still heavily managing their interactions. Like, we haven't cured them where they're just going to all of a sudden be best friends. We're still heavily managing their interactions. But even in this small amount of time, we're able to see her go from needing to be heavily managed, being told to come back to me when you're trying to go after your brother, to now she's making that decision on her own when she has that impulse to want to go up on her brother and get in his face, instead coming back to me, because now that is much more rewarding. And through that repetition and consistency, we're creating better habits despite her still having that impulse in the back of her head. And I think that is something people need to kind of understand when we're talking about behavior mod. When dogs are having an inappropriate behavior, or they're having an unhealthy or a dangerous behavior, dog aggression, dog reactivity, human aggression, whatever, we're not going to necessarily change the fact that they have that impulse. But what we are going to do is we're going to change the habit that follows that impulse. When my dog wants to, bro, for instance, when bro was human aggressive or dog aggressive, or both actually, and we change the habit where when he would want to become human aggressive, he instead decided, I've taught him, when you have that impulse, you come to me, and that's going to solve all of your problems. And so now he has the very same response. When he sees something that makes him nervous, he says, where's my mom? Mom, I'm here. What can I do? So Kelly, tell me a little bit about what your behavior modification case is right now and how you're kind of handling that.
Yeah, so I have a behavior mod dog named Max, who's a very large German Shepherd, and he is human aggressive, but fear way. He's not like truly trying to murder anyone. He's just scared. And I think with him, like our biggest obstacle right now is getting him to kind of calm down around me a little bit. I'm very, big scary person, which we're getting a little bit better with it. But it's a lot of, I feel like he's lacking a lot of direction in his life. He's kind of just walking around aimlessly at the moment, which we're working on that for sure. And then, we're working on creating, again, that alternate behavior like you were talking about. We've started training a hand touch command for right now. Since he isn't super crazy comfortable with me, it's difficult to be doing too much of like recall stuff. He's not going to want to recall to me, especially if he gets into that like aroused state. He's not going to want to. So for right now, we're working on creating a touch command. It's sort of like a little trick target thing to help redirect him. So yeah.
Yeah, you have a little bit of a more interesting challenge too, because I mean, Max had been coming in for lessons, on and off previously. But I know his mom really wanted to be able to do the board and train because he's a lot of dog and he's got a pretty serious issue with that human aggression. But now you're trying to handle teaching him, how to manage that human aggression, even though you could possibly be the target of his aggressive outburst.
Yeah.
So, can you tell me a little bit about how you think that makes some different challenges for you?
I know, like, because I still consider myself a baby trainer at this point. Keeping myself neutral is very important. I think we all, when we are reaching for the leash to get the evil bitey dog out of the kennel, not that he's like a bad boy at heart, in the back of our mind, we're all going like flesh wound, flesh wound, flesh wound. So like turning that off is definitely something I'm getting better at, because it's going to affect my body posturing. And I don't want all those quick flighty prey movements either happening. And then I know like this week we've been having a very good week. Last week was not as good as this week. But it's definitely hard too working around a muzzle. So Max's mom did an excellent job of training him to love his muzzle, but there's definitely a difference of him, one, knowing that it's on, and that he has to choose which behaviors he can do. And then, of course, feeding him through that muzzle, too, can be a little more difficult because I'm actually having to get up more in his face. It's also caused a little bit of an issue in the kennel, too, with the muzzle, because I currently have him on a slip lead with a light line attached to the ring. That way I'm not sticking my arms in the kennel to pull it off of him, because that was an issue he was having with me. And when the leash gets stuck on that muzzle coming off his head, he'll tend to kind of have a small little mental breakdown in the kennel. And that's not a good way to end a training session.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a little better now that we've got the muzzle off for the whole day. And I'm not having to really put it back on him too much. I'll usually just do it if I'm going outside and like, if a random child strays off somewhere, I don't want to be responsible for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's getting a little bit better with that.
Yeah. So I think, the muzzle too, a lot of people don't realize like how important, a muzzle can be in a situation where we have like a human aggressive dog and we're trying to work with them as, us as trainers who don't necessarily have that familial relationship with the dog, right? You drop the dog off with us, and us having that muzzle on. Why is that muzzle so important for your training?
I know. Well, I have a great example of this is last week we had an incident where he kind of started seeing red, and I was kind of like defending myself with a leash, and I was able to grab his muzzle. And when he saw the muzzle, he went, "Oh my gosh, my favorite muzzle!" and like came and shoved his head into it, and like a big switch flipped. And I was like, I felt like I just like finished like a giant boxing match or something. I was like, oh my gosh, unsuited, unmuzzled muzzle fight.
Oh,
um
man.
but that definitely was like a big savior for me. And then it actually also helped me to read his personality too, because one thing he does to his mom a lot when he's wearing that muzzle is he'll kind of like rub his face on her, itching it, which I'm sure is like not the best behavior we want to keep him doing, since it does kind of bruise your leg up. But when he started doing that to me, I was like, okay, now he's getting a little bit more comfortable with me, and he's starting to show some of the same behaviors that are like kind of bratty, pushy, love me behaviors.
Right.
Mom. So it gave me a good reading on what he was feeling towards me.
Yeah. So, you know, when we're talking about like problematic behaviors, right? You know, this episode we're mostly going to be focusing on those kind of extremes, right? The human aggression, dog aggression, things like that. You know, whenever we're talking about a problem behavior, whether it's just my dog pulls on the leash, or my dog pees or poops in the house, or my dog tries to eat small children, right? You know, what we want to do first and foremost is as best as we can and as consistently as we can prevent our dog from practicing the problem behavior, right?
Yeah.
So for a dog who might be having some human aggression, like Bro, Dante, you know, we're talking Max here, dogs who either have successfully or have at least tried to bite humans, we want them to be unable to successfully perform that behavior. So the muzzle prevents them from being able to get that teeth on skin in the event that they tried to or wanted to, right? We ideally want them to think that it's just never an option. And that way, when that muzzle comes off, you know, they have spent so much time not being successful in performing that behavior and having been rewarded in so many moments of not doing that behavior that, you know, it's going to lead to improvement and less attempts to perform that behavior. And we can actually go over, you know, our 7 ways that we address problems behaviors if you want to, because it kind of goes into some of those as well, right?
Yeah. And I think I do want to add this too, since we're on the topic of problem behaviors, is like when you're dealing with these dogs that are, you know, they have issues that could result in bloodshed. That's kind of like my thought process on extreme behaviors. It's a lot of pick your battles too. Like, as I said earlier, like Max rubbing his muzzle is not really something mom likes, but I'm not going to correct him on telling me he likes me, kind of thing.
Yep.
So it's definitely like in the beginning, a lot of picking battles.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, like, you know, going back to kind of like, you know, the challenge that you're in with Max is the fact that like he might be aggressive towards you, right?
Yeah.
So in the front end of you trying to work with him through this process, you know, a huge part of it is building your relationship with this dog individually, because you can't expect him to trust you without taking the time to create a trust relationship and
Yeah.
create a relationship based on clarity, clear expectations, you know, consistency, and saying, hey, bud, nothing unfair is going to happen to you. But, you know, there's rules, there is, you know, routine. And then once he understands that, like his confidence is going to change entirely. I can guarantee it. If he hasn't already, honestly.
Yeah, he's definitely a lot like I'm not seeing as much of the hip shaking with him. He's taking food and drinking water, which is a huge improvement from last week. I was very concerned on the fact that he did not drink any water last week.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, please, please do not do anything bad, buddy. I'm trying. Uh, but yeah, he's definitely like a lot different. And then also he's got a clear understanding now of exactly what happens when he comes out of that kennel and exactly what happens before he goes back in. So there's no like crazy, you know, oh, this time we're gonna go rush out the door, and then next time I'm gonna make you sit and wait, or then like this time maybe I'll make a backflip. He's not concerned about that, and now he's kind of getting himself in this little like autopilot groove where he's like, I know my job and I'm good at my job.
Yes, exactly. I use that in this analogy all the time with like new people coming in looking for dog training and not understanding like why their dog is having all these issues. when there's no structure at home. There's no routine. Everything's very unpredictable for the dog because we can't tell the dog, hey, buddy, I'm going to be late from work today. So, everything's going to happen an hour later than usual. And maybe I'll let you out to go potty before I feed you. Or maybe tonight I'm going to, feed you first. Then I'll let you out to potty. Maybe we're not going to play ball today, but we can't tell our dog the changes in our daily routine. So the more routine our dog's day can be, the easier it is for them to cope. And you'll find that as they understand their routine, they know what comes next. And that's going to be a huge source of their confidence because they can go to that next step confidently, knowing what's expected of them at each step confidently. Like if I know that I have to sit at the door before it opens for us to go outside and I can go potty, I'm going to get to that door and I'm going to sit really quickly because I know that's what's expected of me. I know that we're not going to get to go outside until I sit. And then you're just going to have a dog who's going through life with so much more confidence every single day, right?
And that's even something I recommend to my pet dog. Like, well, I mean, they're all pet dogs, but my typical dog owners, I guess, that aren't having issues, and I think we talked about it in a previous episode, is creating that daily routine, not only to, like I was saying in the previous episode, to maintain those behaviors, but to keep you and your dog on track with everything you're doing and keeping the dog's life super easy.
Yep, exactly. And this also, I know we were talking for Max in particular, we say he's fear aggressive, but even for dogs who are just struggling with just general fear, they're just super skittish, like my dog Bruno, right? He used to be terrified of everything. He basically lived under my coffee table for 4 months when I first got him. And he was just terrified of the world. Now he's a big personality now. He's big, he's confident. He knows tons of stuff. He knows tons of tricks. He does scent detection. He went to my dog training school with me. He wasn't awesome at it because he was definitely struggling with fear, which is going to impact the dog's ability to learn obedience anyway. But he was still able to do it, and he passed, which was good. He didn't do great, but he passed. But once the dog understands their purpose, when they understand what's expected of them, they're just going to be so much more confident. And that's going to solve so many issues, from aggression to reactivity to fearfulness, anxiety, separation anxiety, all of that. Once you just have a good solid routine, man, I tell people all the time when they come in for those consults and I tell them, hey, this is the routine I'm going to expect you to do at home. And then on top of that, we'll do the obedience. But man, if you just do this routine, it's going to solve most of your problems.
Oh yeah, I found I have a little puppy in right now, and puppies, as you know, are super easy. They basically are little brain sponges.
Yep.
And I don't even thinking about this dog's board and train. I feel I didn't really do too many dedicated sessions as much as I did just standard daily routine stuff. And the dog is crazy good at all 5 of our obedience commands.
Mm-hmm.
I just made it routine.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I got a little puppy in right now, and we're on day 2. And man, he's doing great. He's awesome.
Puppies are so great. It's little mental vacations.
It's so awesome because they're blank canvases, and you can just feed them information, and you're not necessarily trying to undo bad habits or anything like that.
Nope.
So great.
I love the little puppy I have right now. If she's I can just stand there and look at her, and she's I know what I'm supposed to do, and just does it. And I'm oh, I love you. Stay with me forever.
Yep. Oh man. All right. So when it comes to behavior modification, I'm trying to think back to what it was like when I first started going to a dog trainer, when I started paying someone to help me with my dog. So I never expected that I was going to need to pay a dog trainer to help me with anything until Bro, my big German Shepherd, bit somebody. And I was like, okay, this is serious. Now I need to get some professional help, because if this continues down this path, Bro could be in some serious trouble or get put down, and that'd be horrible. So, this kind of led my journey to becoming a dog trainer because I went to a dog trainer. I gave them a whole bunch of money to say, hey, my dog bit somebody. We need to get this under control, and we did some training. We taught him a whole bunch of stuff. We taught him a whole bunch of tricks. Like, honestly, the obedience was lackluster at best, right? But I thought, hey, I'm here to teach my dog not to bite people. I'm not here to teach him to be like a show dog or like, competitive obedience dog, having not known anything back then about what I needed to do for him. And the hardest part for me was the fact that like I did everything they told me to do to a T. I followed all their instructions, and like they had drop-in group classes, and I went to them like 3 times a week. Like I definitely got my money's worth. I was there all the time, and I was doing everything with my dogs as much as I could. And then towards the end, I'm like, yo, my dog is still trying to eat people. And I shit you not, the dog trainer said to me, well, we don't want him to be too friendly because you're a woman who lives alone. And I was like, well, what did I pay you for then? Right? If I'm just going to live with my dog being an asshole, like, I could have done that for free, And so I think, I know in the first episode, we talked about having, clear expectations. And I think that's, one of the big reasons why we want to talk about that is because that was a huge, like, I don't know, disheartening conversation to have after I'd paid so much money for them to say, yep, you gave us all your money. We did everything we were supposed to do. And we are now unable to deliver on the thing that you want us to help you with your dog, right? So when it comes to behavior mod, it's important to understand at the get-go, like, this isn't something that's going to be cured, right? This is not something that's going to be 100% never going to ever have to deal with it ever again. From your dog trainer, what you should be expecting is an education on why is my dog doing this? How do I help my dog not feel like they have to do this, right? And I think, wording it the right way is also very important, right? I want my dog to learn that they don't have to feel like they have to do these behaviors, right? I don't want my dog to feel so anxious that they feel like they have to chew their tail off. I don't want my dog to feel, threatened or scared to the point where they feel like they have to lash out in aggression or a bite attempt. So understanding maybe why is my dog feeling that way, and what can I do to make my dog hopefully not feel like they have to do that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's a tricky road too when it comes to that, because some stuff it's like I don't have a choice but to put them like, well, my mind's going to a dog I had named Ty in for training. And if remember, he didn't like the kennel at all. And the kennel is something that he's going to have to deal with, especially since they just moved to Germany. He flew in that kennel, which I want to reach back out to them and see how he is now after that experience. But the kennel was a big stressor for them. And that was where he was getting aggressive most of the time. And that's a place where we were spending a lot of time teaching him, you're not going to be put in a bad position in the kennel. It's a good place to be. And then we ran into a little bit of a resource carding issue, but we did work it out in the end.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, sometimes you're going to have a little bit of a, opposite effect almost.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Like, man, Bro now, it's so funny. So like with Bro, I've spent so long working on him, and I took him to the vet, and they had to take him in the back. I'm like, are you sure? He bites people. And they're like, yeah, we'll take him in the back, it'll be fine. I'm like, okay. I took him in the back, and I'm listening to hear if there's any screaming or babies being murdered in the back, and I didn't hear anything. And then they bring him back out, and they're like, oh yeah, he loved everybody, he was great, he was loving everybody. I'm like, this dog hates people. What are you talking about? Now, mind you, Bro is 10 years old. Bro and I went to a dog trainer for the first time when he was like 2.5, almost 3. And we have been battling with this, I guess, for the last, 7.5 years. And, once I really got educated and I was understanding better like how to really help him, I started taking more deliberate steps to try and create that positive association, right? So something we talk about a lot is, desensitization and counter conditioning is a big one. So let's start with the desensitization, right? So bro sees a person, he thinks, oh, people are bad. I don't like people. I want that person to go away. Desensitization is really just kind of getting them used to it. Like this thing is going to be here, but it's no big deal, right? So a person's going to be here, but, just ignore it. It's not a big deal. So for that, I usually like to recommend using like obedience, right? Yep, there's gonna be people here, but you have to be on your place bed. And as long as you're on your place bed, nothing's gonna happen. They're gonna be here, then they're gonna go away, and no big deal, right? But if our dog has a long history of having a negative association, right? Bro was already like 3 years old, had a really bad negative association with people, then we started really using counter conditioning. So what counter conditioning is taking something that our dog might have a negative association with and then really trying to make it a very positive thing. So anytime there's whatever it is, the stimulus that, our dog has a negative association with, so for bro it was people, every time you see a person, you're going to get a treat, right? And so when we started this, I started with every time you see a person, I'm going to give you a treat, right? And that was part of that whole like, hey, every time you see a person that makes you scared, you come to me, you get a treat, right? And we did that over and over. You see a person, I recall you, you get a treat. Or you look at a person and I just give you a treat. Once that was going really, really well, and bro was doing awesome with that, I started, asking for the help of my fellow dog trainer friends. And I'd say, hey, will you just, kind of throw some food at my dog, right? Don't look at him, don't stare at him, don't talk to him, but just kind of throw food for him to kind of eat off the ground. I mean, bro's also really good at catching. He might just catch it in the air. But just, just offer my dog some food and then go away, right? And we did this a lot. Every person who I could get that would be willing to do this, I asked them to do it. Now, mind you, doing these exercises, bro was not only on leash, but also in a muzzle. He was wearing a muzzle that he could eat food through the muzzle. I'm a huge fan of Baskerville muzzles, but he was able to eat the food off the ground in the muzzle. So once that started going really well, what we started doing was having, those same people feed him from their hand through the muzzle, right? So we're still trying to eliminate or at very least minimize the possibility of a bite, right? And, thankfully I'm using dog trainer friends and myself being a dog trainer, paying very close attention to bro's body language, where if bro looked like he was uncomfortable, bro looked like he was scared, bro looked like he was going to bite, we could, address it immediately. And we did this so much to the point that, we could then progress to doing this, without the muzzle. And again, making sure our trainer friends are using appropriate body language on the human side, as well as paying attention to the dog body language. And again, we just did this so much that bro started to think that every time he saw a new person, they were going to have a handful of cheese or chicken or something for him. And Kelly, you can tell me about the first time you met bro. What it was like, when you finally, because you were probably the most recent one he's gotten to meet, right?
Yeah. Well, I remember you were like, you hyped him up like it was gonna be this giant, scary like wolf that was gonna come in and lunge at my throat and pull my eyes out of their sockets.
That's the way I feel.
And that's understandable considering you've seen him, well, not do that, but you've seen the tendencies. And then I saw a giant little poof ball and legs. But I was on a little rolly stool. I didn't really look at him. I was just feeding him. We had that like wet Bill Jack, that yellow bag of it. Just like feeding it. And then he was like, instantly, we were best friends. But that's because bro loves me.
Yep.
But I'm sure, maybe some of your training might have had something to do with it, but
I don't know, maybe.
we're just best friends at heart. And then from there on out, he ate more of my lunch than I did every day at work.
Yep.
And now bro and I are the bestest of friends.
Yes, bro loves you like no other. It's amazing. So, yeah. But the thing is, like, it's something that I want people to understand. Like, bro, I've been working with him for like what, 7.5 years. 7.5 years. And I just took him to the vet recently and, told them I was still like, hey, my dog bites people. He's big, he's scary, he could potentially hurt you. And, for them to say, like, oh, he was super friendly and loved everybody, like, it still blows my mind. And this is after 7.5 years of training. So when you come in and you ask for a 3-week board and train and expect us to 100% fix, your dog trying to murder, your child, like having a realistic expectation of what's going to happen is really important. And understanding your dog and understanding like why your dog's doing it, right?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. What else you got?
I want to talk a little bit about like the willingness to manage too on the owner's part.
Oh, absolutely.
I've been seeing a ton of Facebook posts of rehoming my dog because it doesn't get along with my other dog, which you were just describing that situation. Rehoming my dog because it can't control, and this one like makes me so mad. It can't control around my child, and it's always like some small child.
Wait, can you repeat that again? You kind of cut out. You can't what around a small child?
My dog can't control itself around a child. Like, ma'am, put your child on a leash.
Oh my God, my dog is so aggressive when my child is sticking toys in its mouth and sticking things, grabbing his tail and grabbing his fur and his ears, and all of a sudden my dog bit my child.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Or I just saw one too, like, which this one's not as much behavior mod, but like I'm getting rid of my dog because it can't be out of the kennel all day, and I won't keep it in the kennel for 8 hours. And I saw someone asking like who to contact on Fort Bragg or Fort Liberty or whatever the heck it is now, who to contact.
Always be Fort Bragg.
Yeah. Like who to contact for animal control because their neighbor keeps their dog in a kennel while they're at work all day.
You did not see that, really?
I did see. I almost sent it to you. I should have sent it to you.
Of course you did.
But I was like, those poor people, they're just doing the right thing. And like when it comes to some of these behavior mod things, like I've got Scooter in here with me. If I have Gracie out all the time, there's probably going to be a dog fight, which Scooter has no teeth. He's not going to win. And Gracie's just going to cry and go, why, mommy? But, I'm willing to not always have my dogs together. I understand the importance of kenneling my other dog. Or if I have Gracie out and I want to be like rambunctious and do a lot of play and like, let her bite my arms and stuff, that very much bothers Scooter. So I put Scooter away.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with not having everyone out at once.
I haven't had Bro and Medic out since they got in a fight, and that was what, 3 months ago now? I don't know. 2 of my dogs got in a fight with each other. And ever since then, I've been keeping them separate. And, that's where we just kind of get into not necessarily behavior mod, but behavior acceptance. So we were talking about Dante. A friend of mine was asking about Dante, my Chihuahua, who likes to bite the shit out of people. And he's like, oh, so is he a behavior modification case? I'm like, no, he's a behavior acceptance case. There's a certain point where you just say, this is just the dog he's going to be. He's definitely got some major screws loose in his little 9-pound body. And I don't like that when he goes off and when he tries to bite, like, even me as a professional dog trainer, like, I don't understand it most of the time. Like, I don't get it most of the time. Why is he doing it? I don't understand what the motivation is. I don't understand. Is it fear? Is it like when I was married, I was married to this guy for like 4 years, and Dante never warmed up to him. Never. He would still try to bite him. And like he would feed him, he would give him treats, they would cuddle on the couch. He was awesome. And then out of nowhere, he would move wrong or something, and he would just pop. It wasn't resource guarding. It wasn't fear. I couldn't figure it out. He's just got some screw loose in his head. I mean, he's a Chihuahua, right?
Yeah.
So we just accept that that's just Dante. right? And so if he's going to be out around people, he wears a muzzle. And if he's not going to be wearing a muzzle, I tell anyone who's going to be involved, there's a potential that he's going to bite you. And if you're concerned about that, he's going to wear his muzzle or he's going to stay in his kennel.
Dante still hates me. If he's in the yard with you and I'm out there, I either have to have Dakota with me or car keys to jingle at him because he'll just run up on me.
He's so funny. I mean, it's definitely comes from a place of fear or like confidence issues, because I always try to like relate him to the ghosts in Super Mario. When you're in the castle in Super Mario and you got the ghost chasing you, if you face the ghost stop. But as soon as you turn your back to the ghost, they start chasing you. That's Dante.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's it. And so we talk about like behavior management at that point, right? Like I said, if Dante's going to be out, there's a potential he's going to bite you, right? He's 9 pounds. The worst thing you're going to get is like a paper cut, but it's still going to hurt, and nobody wants that. But I don't really want him practicing that behavior. So if he's going to be out, I'm going to either put him in a muzzle, or he's going to be in his kennel. And if someone feels sorry about that or feels bad about that, just wait until he starts biting your ankles. You're not going to feel so bad about it anymore, I promise.
He gave me a nasty bruise one time.
You poor thing.
So aggressive. He's aggressive. He has the power to be threatening.
Yeah, he's crazy. But, he is the way he is. I mean, so Dakota was extremely dog aggressive when I got her, right? She, on her shelter paperwork, big red letters, it says dog aggressive. She had a long history of dog reactivity in school and stuff like that. So she was the dog that I got assigned to me when I went to the Star Mark Academy. And, when I brought her home, we took a really slow and deliberate process to integrate her. And knowing that she was, had a huge potential to be dog aggressive, granted, she had really good obedience by the time I brought her home, I knew that she wasn't really going to want dogs getting up in her face, right? And to this day, she doesn't like dogs getting in her face. So, for just like I was talking about earlier with Iris and Ruger, it's our responsibility to advocate for our dogs. That's a huge part of it that is so widely overlooked. But thankfully, I think it's a concept that's becoming more expressed throughout the dog training community, to the clients and owners that we have out there, is that we have to advocate for the dog, right? Oh, my dog tried to bite somebody who reached out to touch my dog. Well, yeah, advocate for your dog. Tell someone not to touch your dog, right? Dakota doesn't like other dogs getting in her face. So if Alba tries to get in her face, then I'm going to tell Alba, hey, knock it off. Because otherwise Dakota's going to tell you that, and she's not going to tell you as nicely. Right?
I still remember back when I worked my little retail job, the first dog bite I ever got was there. I was walking to go do like register back something, and someone was in line, German Shepherd, buying a muzzle. I'm gonna add, like they were in there purchasing it, and I walked past the dog, and of course, like it was Saturday in a dog store. You're not going to make a 20-foot radius around every single dog in there, especially at the front of the store. And I walked past, and the dog reached out and bit me. And the lady was like, he was protecting kids. I was like, I was not harming your kids. Your dog bit.
She said he was protecting the kids?
Yes. And meanwhile, like I got bit by a dog, walked up to the register, finished the line, stopped the lady at the door because like I told my management, they did not care, but who cares? If I liked it there, I'd still work there. I had to stop her at the door myself to make sure that the dog was like had vaccines and things, and that I like did not just contract some random like disease. He was like, well, he was protecting my kids, and I was like, I'm not near your kids. Like maybe don't bring your dog in here. And like I had this long conversation with her about like why we shouldn't bring dogs with bite histories into public spaces.
Yeah.
And she mentioned somewhere in that conversation that she was planning on breeding it too.
Oh my God.
I was like, Miss Girl, let's skip.
So you bring up a really interesting point too that a lot of people mention in their like consultations and their describing of their dog's problems. Like, oh, my dog bit somebody because he was protecting me, right? Bro, my German Shepherd, one of the first dog bites he had was on like a really young, like I think she was like 4 or 5 year old little girl who was playing like in my yard on the other side of the yard. And he like ran over and bit her. And like someone was like, oh yeah, he was just trying to protect you. I'm like, who was he protecting me from? I was not in danger. Like your dog is not protecting you. Your dog is an asshole.
Yeah. Especially considering like in that moment, like I'm definitely walking straight forward, not interacting with these people. Like I'm just moving.
Mm-hmm.
They reached out.
Yep.
Which like but now that with the experiences that I've had now, like I can understand the reason she acted the way she acted. And it's just like she was upset and freaking out that her dog bit somebody. Yeah, it was incredibly stupid and reckless for her to bring the dog in the store. I cannot explain that. But I definitely know like the bad attitude that I was experiencing was, holy shit, my dog bit someone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's terrible. Like if you've never had a dog who's bit somebody, like the feeling that you get at that moment, it's indescribable. It's probably like one of the worst feelings I've ever had. Like one of the most emotional moments of my life was when bro bit somebody. And like I didn't know like how to like act. I didn't know how to respond to it. I didn't know how to apologize for it, like other than saying sorry. Like I let my dog bite you. Like that's my fault, right? I felt so guilty and so like ashamed at the same time. Like it's if you ever have to experience that, like it's the worst. And so like I can only imagine that, you know, the thoughts going through her brain at that moment. So, you know,
Yeah.
I get it, but the thing like that doesn't irk me so much as like when I went to a dog trainer for my dog who was inappropriately biting people. And after paying them and going through all the training they had to offer me, and then them telling me they don't want my dog to be too friendly because he needs to protect me. Like, my dog is not protecting me.
I find that particularly like interesting that they would say that to you, considering like you were like weren't you Army at the time?
Yeah.
And like
I was living on base.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that it wasn't legitimate. I think it was them trying to cover their asses for not having any idea how to do behavior mod. You know, it was a big chain franchise, they pop out new dog trainers every other week. Fuck it, I was going to this dog trainer so frequently and I was doing so much with my dog. And on top of what they were teaching me, like I was trying to learn other things because I was trying to fix my dog as much as I could. I was trying to, find every resource I could. I was teaching him all sorts of cool tricks. We were doing like agility stuff. We were going everywhere, doing everything I possibly could. That they tried to hire me. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, is this how you get your trainers? Obviously, like this is why your folks don't know what they're doing, is because like if you're trying to hire me and I'm the one who came to you for information, like is this how you got hired?
Oh yeah, that's like me thinking about my retail training job too. Like I walked in and I was like, "Hi, I've got horse training experience." And they said, "How much would you like to work here?" I was like, "Oh, okay." Not what I was expecting.
And it's scary to think like the number of dog trainers out there who don't have a really solid educational background in dog training and canine psychology. Don't get me wrong, like years of experience has its worth, but there's only so much you're going to get out of experience and trial and error necessarily, and what you can find on YouTube and what you can kind of Google. Like, because there'll be trainers out there who say you can just correct the dog or punish the behavior out of the dog. Maybe for some dogs that works, but in a lot of cases, when you're thinking about canine psychology and what the dog is actually thinking and feeling in these moments, when bro is becoming aggressive towards somebody, it's out of a place of fear. It's out of a place of an already negative association. And you're not going to punish that a negative association out of them. You might kind of put a cork in it, but it's not going to fix that pressure underneath, that boiling up, and eventually it's just going to kind of overflow.
For sure. Yeah, I had because like whenever I feel like not super confident about something I'm working on, whether that's like a new command with Gracie, like front or anything, or like I have Max right now, I will ask as many like trainers that I know their opinions what I'm working on, because everyone's going to do something a little bit different and it might work for me. I remember teaching Gracie the hold, and you gave me like 5 different things to do and none of them worked for me, which is like fine. All dogs are going to be a little different. And it was suggested to me that I correct Max when he gets spicy. Like, I'm going to get bit if I do that. I'm going to say, what the hell? Hell no. And then it's just going to turn around on me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's...
Now, don't get me wrong. When Daria tries to bite me, she's getting a correction.
But Daria's doing that out of a place of love.
She bites me because she loves me. No, yeah, you're kind of right. She does it out of a place of she loves to bite things, and I am a thing, and therefore, by the transitive property, she likes to bite me. And she enjoys it. She thinks it's great. She's not doing it because she's scared. She's doing it because she's a brat. And she thinks that our playtime is about to be over, so she's going to try and bite me. So I'll give her toy back. Which sometimes works because I'm a bad dog mom sometimes. But so she'll get corrected for it, but it's because we're looking at the dog as an individual. We're looking at what is motivating the dog to do this behavior, right? She's not biting me because she hates me. She's not biting me out of, inappropriate fear-based aggression or dominance-based aggression. She's biting me because she's a little brat. And she thinks if she bites me hard enough, I'll drop the toy. And we're going to say, no, that is not how this works. You're going to get a correction because that's inappropriate and you're being a little turd.
Well, it's just like, I feel like, when you see videos online of the over-socialized dog getting a correction for barking at people, that scares me because I'm scared someone's going to see that, have their dog barking in defense, correct it, like with a prong or something, dog feels teeth on neck out of that prong, and oh crap is on.
Yeah.
Why it's like so important when you're dealing with situations that are behavior based, and I mean it's all behavior based, but I mean like super, like you're gonna have to read into that behavior. It's not just Coco sit, Coco lay down, but it's what the hell is Coco thinking about, and am I about to get murked by my dog? It's so important to be like consulting with a trainer.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we were saying before, where like it's part of our behavior modification programs that we do is making sure the client understands the why. Why is my dog behaving this way? Like when we do our consults, like it's an hour plus for me because I can't stop talking or listening. We'll talk for an hour before I say, hey, I think this is why your dog is doing this. And it's because I have to get all the pieces of the puzzle to see the big picture before I can really understand why is my dog behaving this way.
Yeah.
When I hear, oh, my dog just attacked another dog out of the blue. Alba, this was the first behavior, quote unquote, behavior modification case I got, was a friend of mine. A friend of mine got this like, high drive, neurotic, nervy German Shepherd. And they were having some issues where she was, kind of going after the other dog in the house. A small dog, little terrier mix, adorable, named Bruno also. And they're like, yeah, it's out of the blue. It's out of nowhere. We don't understand it all. I'm like, cool. And so we end up talking through everything. They were planning to get rid of her because they just were like, she ended up putting Bruno in the hospital, and they're like, this is too much. We can't go through this again. And I'm like, give me the dog. But we still went through the whole process because I need to understand what was going on. So I didn't risk it happening in my house too. And, after talking through everything, we figured out it was the fact that she was resource guarding the furniture, right? Because the dogs got along. The dogs got along like throughout the whole day. But if she was up on that couch and Bruno so much as walked by or like breathed in her direction, she saw red and she went after him. And, she still has that impulse in the back of her brain, but we've taught her how to manage that impulse and the fact that, like, hey, you don't need to act that way because this isn't your couch. This is my couch. I bought it for $100 on Craigslist, and I still have it. It's 5 years old. It's going strong.
My my couches have an arm missing from gravy.
You know what? I shit you not. This couch hasn't had any damage until I finally let Daria be a couch dog for a day. And she was doing something. I thought she was chewing on her toy. No, she was chewing on the couch cushion. Yeah. So
Go Daria.
He's great. But, it's hard for, the average pet owner to really understand why my dog does this. But you'll find that the value of understanding the why makes such a huge difference in how you look at that behavior, right? Because if you're just looking at the picture of my dog or my new dog tried to kill my other dog who I have had and loved for years, and now I am so mad because this dog did something bad, right? It's so hard to look at it in my dog wasn't doing it out of place of hate or vengeance or willful defiance or malicious activity. It was a product of some instinct, some sort of survival instinct, defense mechanism, whatever that has been developed over years of experiences. And once you look at it that way, it's like, when you have a serial killer that is a product of their mother hugging them too little or too much or whatever, and understanding why they do the things they do, like, you almost start to empathize with them a little bit. You start to kind of understand it. Oh, your mother used to put cigarettes out on your back. No kidding, you're going to be a little bit messed up in the head, right?
Specific.
Yeah, sorry. No, that didn't happen to me. I'm not saying that. Don't say that. That's weird. But like it starts to kind of give you a little bit of a little bit more empathy about, hey, my dog is acting this way because they feel it's necessary. And it's important for us to understand that every time our dogs are demonstrating some type of serious behavior, reactivity, aggression, fear, self-harm, excessive stress responses, excessive, defense or even offense responses, I guess. Like, these are products of survival mechanisms and instincts that have been developed either through genetics, temperament, poor breeding, or life experiences, right? The whole nature versus nurture thing. And, if it is a product of nurture, meaning it's a product like they were bred just fine, they have fine genetics, they have fine, personality types, temperament, whatever, but they've had traumatic experiences that have caused these issues, it still might not be something you can cure because you're never going to erase those past experiences. You can try to counterbalance those with positive experience or appropriate experience. But, just because you add a whole bunch of positive experiences to it doesn't erase the traumatic experience, right? I used to run around barefoot every day when I was a kid, like all summer. Like, I used to walk around my whole neighborhood barefoot. I get stung by a bee one time. I never walk around barefoot again. Right? So for our dogs, like, they have this, like, hey, I might be fine with people up until one day I go to the vet and he sticks something up my butt, and now all of a sudden I hate people. Right? That could be, again, very specific, right? Poor Tinky. Tinky does not like going to the vet. He doesn't have a problem with people, though, thankfully, but he does still not like going to the vet.
I mean, he also had that experience with his x-ray too, didn't he?
Yep. So he had that experience getting x-rayed as a puppy. He had bad experience going into the confirmation show and someone grabbing his balls. He, on the protection field, he had a bad experience, getting the leash wrapped around his foot, and freaking out a little bit. Like, we can have those traumatic like flashbacks when something kind of triggers it too.
I want to talk too about like one, trainer, like adding in a trainer to your situation can help you get a lot more clarity. Because we're going to have a lot of bias towards our dogs for sure. And I think we'll see a situation one way, but it actually maybe was something else. Like the first time Scooter ever got in a dog fight, it was a neighbor's off-leash pit bull, and it happened multiple times with this dog. Praying that man bought a leash at some point, because like once is enough, pal.
Once should always be enough, by the way, for behavior modification. Once, it's aggression or whatever, once should be enough.
But I remember when that happened, like my first thought was that it was my fault. My dog is aggressive. But then I was like thinking not about Scooter. Scooter could have been not dog aggressive, and that dog running up on him could have triggered the fight. The other dog was on top. I was trying to pull Scooter away and pulling two dogs with me. So, having a trainer is going to help a lot with the clarity of the situation. And then also like keeping in mind that your trainer is on your side. I get so many clients that come in that are like, I feel like they're embarrassed to tell me things, or they're like ashamed of how the dog acts when they're in. And I'm like, you're not here because your dog is perfect.
Right.
Like, I like my job because I'm helping your life get better.
Mm-hmm.
So, never be ashamed. If you're getting help for something, never be ashamed for the fact that you're getting help for your problem.
Yeah. And like I always tell people, it's like going to the doctor, right? You don't hide stuff from your doctor. You don't lie to your doctor because you're ashamed, or at least you shouldn't. And going to the dog trainer should be the same way. Like I also ask people like, yo, has your dog ever bit anybody? And like, I'm not here to report you like for your dog biting somebody in the past and you not reporting it. I don't care. I need to know so I know how to handle your dog and not get bit. Because if I get bit and it's bad enough, I need to go to the hospital, your dog's getting reported, right? If it's not very serious, I'm not really going to go and report you to animal control if I don't have to, right? But, I've had instances where I've been bit and had to go to the hospital and your dog's going to get reported. Like, it's not the end of the world. Your dog's not going to automatically get put down. But if this has happened 2, 3, 4, 5 times, then you're probably going to start getting some people asking questions. Right?
Yeah.
I felt really bad. I had a dog bite. Like, thankfully, they have been very few and far between. In my coming up on almost 4 years of being a professional dog trainer in the dog industry, I've had less than a handful of dog bites, right? But I remember my first dog bite, it's the worst part about like, I wouldn't have gone to the hospital. It wasn't that bad. I would have been fine, except for the fact that I had surgery scheduled for like the next week. And I was so concerned because dog bites are nasty. Like if you're going to get an injury, it's going to get infected. It's probably going to be a dog bite. And the backstory on this dog, like I should have seen it coming. And, as dog trainers, like this is maybe in my 3rd or 4th month of being a professional dog trainer. I was just trying to fill my books. I was just trying to get, people in the door because I needed the money, right? I can't be just turning away dogs because, they might be too much for me to handle. Whereas I probably could have, or probably should have taken this a different route, which, we all learn from our mistakes. But the client came in and the backstory of the dog was crazy. They found the dog at the lake. Like they're at the lake and the dog was just there and he just came up to them and they said, well, okay. They did a stray hold. For the stray hold, they had to put him at the animal shelter or the pound or whatever you want to call it. Well, they did the stray hold, and during the stray hold, no one claimed him. When they went to go pick up the dog from the pound, the veterinary or the pound, the shelter people, the animal control people, they're like, this dog is wildly aggressive. We couldn't handle him without a catch pole. Like, he is like terrible. Mind you, during the whole consultation, the dog was fine, right? And the dog was super chill, whatever, no big issue. And, at one point, I think I got up and the dog kind of like startled or spooked a little bit. But I was like, okay, yeah, this is fine. And you want to do a board and train? Cool. We have an opening starting like tomorrow. You can drop them off. And so every time they drop off the dog, we have them take off all of their personal collars, any harnesses, leashes, whatever, and we just use our slip leash. And I remember I had the client put the slip leash on the dog, and I had them hand me the slip leash while they took off their collars. And I saw the dog give me those like last minute cues, like, I'm going to bite you. Like, I saw the eyes, I saw the face, I saw the body language, and I'm like, I'm about to get bit. And I'm holding this dog's leash, and they had just taken the collar off. And, in our bite prevention and leash handling, the only thing you can really do in that situation is take the dog and lift him up by the slip leash. Well, this is a big ass dog. And so instead of trying to bite me like in my body, in my face, and my legs, this dog went straight up and bit me square in the elbow. And he held on. And so he bit me in the elbow. He was latched onto my arm. I'm standing there in front of the clients, and I can't lift my arm up because the dog is now attached to it. And so I just looked at the client and handed them the leash, and I said, "Can you just pull this straight up for me?" And they're like, big like eyes, like they had just seen like a ghost, and like white face. They take that leash and just pull straight up until the dog let go. And I just go, "Hey, I'm gonna go clean up real quick, and then we're gonna get him back in the kennel." Yeah, that dog did not let me take him out of the kennel, and I had them come pick him up later that day. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was a shit show.
I mean, I feel like when in my consultations and stuff, for sure, like if people, I feel like I can tell when they're not telling me what's going on. So I'm like, you're sitting on my couch and telling me your dog is perfect. Like, um, uh, that like it's going to come out in the wash. Either they're gonna slip up and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, well there was this one time that he killed like a class of kindergartners, or they're gonna be like, oh, everything's fine, and then I get the dog in and I'm like, so did your dog have an issue with this? And they're gonna be like, yeah. So it's always better to be honest.
You know what's so funny is that happened to me in multiple temperament tests. And like the thing is with like the temperament test, these are usually dogs I've never seen for training, never done a consultation with, never met the clients before. They're just checking off a block so that they can adopt or foster a child, right? And you would think that, they would understand that the temperament test is to decide whether or not the dog is going to be safe in the home of the child. And you would think that if the dog has aggression or, any type of bite risk, that they would either reconsider the process or let me know ahead of time. Because I go over the whole process. I go over the whole test with them. Like, these are the things I'm going to do to your dog. And evaluate how they respond to it. You would think that they say, hey, my dog's probably going to have an issue with that. No. But the temperament test is to see, is this dog going to be a threat? Is this dog going to potentially bite somebody? And we test them in ways that are safe, that are humane, that are intended to potentially provoke an aggressive reaction so that we can see kind of what is your dog going to be okay with? Is your dog going to be okay with a child, kind of manhandling them? Is your dog going to be okay in common household situations that can often be stressful? And I've had 2 dogs in temperament tests try to bite me. Yeah, it was bad. And I asked them afterwards, I'm like, is this surprising that your dog tried to bite me? They're like, no, we expected he was going to have issues. I'm like, oh, that would have been nice to know ahead of time. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's like, we're not going to deny you service, I feel like, most of the time for a lot of these issues. But like, one heads up is nice when it's risking our, our skin and tender flesh. That heads up is nice. And also, like, we can help you a lot better if we know what's going on. Like, if you knew the exact circumstances of those dogs, if they had a previous bite history, you might be able to even narrow it down more to that, like, what is causing the issue.
Well, and like the way I love to look at it when it comes to the behavior mod is, a relationship-based solution. For bro, if he's uncomfortable, mom is the solution. Mom is the answer to all of bro's problems. Same for Dante. When Dante's on leash with me, he's fine because he knows mom's got his back. Like he doesn't have to act like a crazy fool because mom's going to be the answer. So, even if your dog is too aggressive where we can't safely take them in for a board and train, like this was the situation with Max for a long time, is that Max was so severe that I didn't feel safe taking him in as a board and train. Now, what we did was we were doing private lessons to work on the skills that he would need, i.e., that muzzle conditioning, the obedience, the leash handling, that we could take him in, apply those same skills, and have him to be okay with that, be more comfortable with it. But we're not going to just turn you away because we can't handle your dog, right? We would say, hey, your dog is aggressive to the point where I can't safely take your dog in and out of the crate or in and out of the kennel. I can't let your dog sit in that kennel 24/7 for 3 days while he gets used to me because he's going to pee, he's going to poo, and it's going to be unsafe and unsanitary.
Exactly. And I even I prefer to do private lessons even if I'm not in danger, but when it comes to reactivity, what mild, just maybe they're barking at the dog across the street or whatever, because at the end of the day you're going to go home and it's not going to be me helping your dog through these situations. It's really important for you to know how to handle that and for your dog to know, oh, mom has a leash or dad has a leash, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that became a big thing with Ty, because they wanted to take him on walks around the neighborhood. And Ty is like a tiny little Papillon mix, by the way. So he's
so much. He's so cute.
I love him, and his family is so sweet. I definitely miss them, but we did a lot of work with them and with the stroller and dog neutrality with Gracie. And just teaching him that picture is a controlled thing. He doesn't have to be, their big macho man, all 5 pounds of him, just dog walking around too. And he did a board and train with me and he was totally fine with dogs around me. That does not help him at home.
Right. Yeah. I've had a lot of, experience with the dog reactivity and seeing that exact same thing, right? When mom or dad comes to pick up the dog, it's like the dog forgets everything they learned during the board and train. I find that not only is it about building confidence in, the dog, but also building confidence in the human. So I remember I had this poor dog. Unfortunately, they ended up rehoming the dog. This is this is probably one of the most severe dog aggression, dog reactivity cases I saw. Where because we train in the same room where the crates are, where the kennels are, and the dog literally could not function just knowing that there was other dogs living and breathing in the same room as it. Even though it couldn't see it, if she could smell those dogs, she was red already. But we took that dog pretty far. We could have her working in the room with up to 4 dogs on place beds around her, and she was able to function. But then when we hand over the leash to mom, you could see mom had such a traumatic history with this dog's severity and her aggression that mom was a nervous wreck if there was other dogs around. And the dog, she would handle the dog as if she was nervous, tightening up on that leash, preparing for the dog to freak out, which then caused the dog to freak out.
Yeah.
I intentionally set up, I said, hey, we're going to play a game. This is the rule. You got these 4 dogs. They're out here on their place beds. They're not going to move. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to react. They're all asleep right now. And they're not going to care if your dog barks. I'm not going to care if your dog barks. The important thing is that you need to not care if your dog barks, right? Because your dog's going to make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. You don't have to be embarrassed. You don't have to be ashamed. And I would hand her the handle of a 6-foot leash. And I would tell her, you don't get to touch any part of this leash except for the handle. Now walk your dog. And she could be nervous and that'd be fine, but she's got a whole nice long loose leash so that information didn't transfer to the dog.
Yeah.
And it took several sessions of kind of doing this, but eventually mom was like out there walking her dog, like she knew what she was doing and she felt so much more confident. And it's so interesting to see the same techniques we use for the dogs transfer over to humans in building that confidence in the handler and knowing that in these situations that, previously were very stress inducing, it doesn't have to be because you know how to handle it now.
For sure.
Man, how much longer we got? What time is it? Oh
It's
God.
9 o'clock.
I don't have a timer on this thing, so I have no idea how long I've been talking, but it's been a hot minute.
It's been at least an hour, I think.
Oh God. Cool, man. So we've been talking a lot. I know we talked mostly about like aggression and reactivity, and our experiences with it. And I think, behavior modification when we're dealing with new dog owners or inexperienced dog owners or someone who's maybe just dealing with this for the first time, it's so hard to, understand, but I hope this has really helped kind of clarify, understanding what is expected in a behavior modification program. What should I be expecting from my trainer? What is the process going to be? How is your training going to help this dog? And understanding like what you can't really do. You can't just punish, negative associations out of the dog. You can't punish my dog's fear away. You can't punish my dog's dog aggression away. You have to understand why is the dog doing it. And we talked a lot of motivations for why dogs do these things, these common behaviors, reactivity, aggression, bites, things like that. So, anything else you want to cover before we kind of wrap this up?
I don't think so. I think I've basically kind of hit all my points here.
Nice. I know we got some cool topics coming up in our future episodes. We're definitely going to do an episode on equipment. I had a lot of things I wanted to talk about. We were going to do that tonight, but I know we got some really interesting behavior modification cases in right now. So it's right on the front of our brain. So, it was really good timing for us to kind of cover this topic. And I think we talked a lot about it tonight in a very productive way. But in future episodes, we do have, we're going to cover equipment. We're going to cover our go-to equipment that we use for like every dog, why we use it, the purpose of each tool, as well as some of our more specialized tools that we can use as well. Talking about equipment and why, what the purpose of each piece is. We're going to talk about socialization in an upcoming episode, what it is, why we do it, socialization at different age groups too. And then, we have a lot more topics that we're going to cover in the future. If you have a topic that you want us to cover that, we haven't mentioned or we haven't done yet, shout out to us, leave us a message, shoot us an email, comment, whatever. We want your feedback. We want to know what you want to hear about. So definitely reach out to us. Don't forget, we have tons and tons of free resources on our website, airbornk9.com. Check out our website, check out our YouTube channel, check out our Facebook, our Instagram. We're always posting our clients' videos. So if you're a current client or a past client, don't forget to check out your dog's posts, updates, things like that. Kelly, you got anything?
I think that covered everything.
Sweet. All right. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, the like and subscribe, follow us, whatever, all that social media stuff. I'm really bad at plugging, but I'm getting better at it. So here we are. What was that?
Leave us a review.
Leave us a review. Leave us a review. Leave us a positive comment. We appreciate all of you. So make sure you get out there, have fun, and enjoy your day with your dog.